the people who bowed to him and kissed his hand. I did not bow to him, and I did not kiss his hand. Unfortunately, foreign governments, they bowed to him and they kissed his hand, like they're kissing the hand of a saint.
He's very erratic, very irresponsible, and everyone knows, but because he's pumping oil, because he has control over that oil, people are willing to dismiss anything he does.
Libya's oil fields now lie in the eastern half of the country Gaddafi has lost to the uprising. In his battle to remain, Gaddafi has set his people against one another. What began as a protest has become a fight for the future.
I received a Twitter from a youth in Libya, and this probably was the hardest one I got, and most life-changing. And it says, I can't specifically quote what he said, but from what I remember, I'm paraphrasing. He said, "We, the youth in Libya, will topple the regime down, and you, the people outside of Libya, you need to come back and rebuild the country." And I'm determined to make it, to make his dream come true, and we will go back and we will rebuild Libya.
Especially my daughter, she's very upset because she has she said to me, why we can't go home, Dad? And the first thing, I want to take them to Benghazi, and I walk the streets of my hometown with them. And that would be the greatest feeling for me.
Leaders are remembered, be they loved or feared. Alone they are inscribed on the pages of history. But what of the men and women whose hands build their monuments and whose blood stains their battlefields? The people who, against all odds, wield the power to reshape history. People in power at this time on AlJazeera.
All sides, all views, all ways. Al Jazeera.
See the world from every angle and every side. Al Jazeera.
This is Al Jazeera.
Hello, welcome to the News Hour. I'm Adrian Finnegan from Al Jazeera News Centres here in Doha and in London, and live from Libya, Egypt, Kuwait and Côte d'Ivoire. These are the main stories. The battle for AlJazeera. More than 30 killed as pro-Gaddafi forces attack the western Libyan city, but rebels say they're still in control. Armed groups are on the move after taking the oil town of Ras Lanuf from government hands.
I'm Felicity Barr in London with the latest from Europe, including the evacuation of foreign oil workers from Libya continues, but so does the flow of oil money to the government in Tripoli.
And the turmoil continues in Egypt, where protesters have occupied state security buildings to protect evidence of human rights abuse. We begin in Libya, where forces loyal to Muammar Gaddafi have been launching new and widespread offensives. Opposition groups have been pushing back where they can, but fierce fighting has left scores of people dead. Let's take a look at the key flashpoints. In what seems to be Gaddafi's only stronghold, Tripoli, security forces continue to crack down on any hint of dissent. But the most brutal fighting is taking place right now in AlJazeera. We're getting reports of heavy shelling by government forces on the western town. It comes after armed opposition groups drove them out in fierce fighting early on Saturday. At least 30 people are thought to have been killed there. Further east, armed groups are on the move after taking the oil town of Ras Lanouf from government hands. In Benghazi, where the uprising began, over 17 people died when an ammunition depot exploded. Opposition fighters say that pro-Gaddafi forces attacked the store. Al Jazeera's Lawrence Lee takes a look now at the ongoing battle for Libya.
One of the big debates during this conflict has been to do with the strength of the Libyan army, and pictures like this have been rare. This is the brigade trying to retake the town of Zawiya, not far from Tripoli, where the fighting has been ferocious. Residents have claimed indiscriminate fire by the army. Soldiers loyal to Gaddafi say this is one fight they're winning.
With God's will, we are controlling the entrances and exits of Zawiya. They cannot get out of the town, and they will not be able to do anything anymore. We are controlling it, and we will control more.
The Libyan army is notoriously poorly resourced, which may explain why it's taking them so long to retake one town only a short distance from Tripoli. Even if the opposition fighters are badly trained, the one big advantage they do have is force of numbers. The rebels, for instance, say they've taken Ras Lanouf and are on the march towards Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte. There's still plenty of resolve here, apart from anything else they captured and then ransacked the symbolic prize of Gaddafi's beachfront residence in the town, which must have been gratifying for them. But more importantly than that, Ras Lanouf has oil, lots and lots of it.
At the beginning there, you see from here up to 10 kilometers, the port, the oil seaport, that's for exporting oil. You see, Ras Lanouf, that's the biggest in Libya here.
And Brega, further east, also still seems to be out of Gaddafi's control. Two things are becoming clear. First of all is that increasingly the fighting's being concentrated around oil towns, which it's hardly surprising Gaddafi's so keen to reclaim, while his assets are being seized all over Europe. His forces are also keen to destroy arms dumps in the hands of rebels. This one went up in flames in Benghazi, although it's not clear how. More than a dozen were killed, the funerals demonstrating once again how united Benghazi is against the government in Tripoli. The other development is that it's clear the fighting's becoming harder, and all the reports from the frontline towns suggest more people being killed than in previous days. The main reason why the two sides are so deadlocked is because neither is particularly strong. But all the same, it's hardly surprising the words civil war are beginning to appear more frequently to describe what's happening in Libya. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.
Well, a man who we'll refer to as just Abdul Latif is a resident of AlJazeera, which has been the scene of some of the fiercest clashes on Saturday. Just a few moments ago, he described what he was seeing.
الزاوية